Welcome to my lessons. I'm going to be looking today for my first lesson ever at Blackened, and today's lesson is going to focus on the main riff of the song, which I think is probably the biggest challenge of this particular song. I'll take you through the difficulties in a minute. Let's get the boring stuff out of the way. I'm going to be doing a lot of lessons in this year. Call it a New Year resolution, new chapter in life. So if you want to get more of my lessons, please press the subscribe button, and if you want to get notifications as to when I've posted a lesson up, just put the bell as well, click on the bell as well, and then you'll get to know when I've posted the next lesson, which will be about Blackened over the next couple of weeks. Also, I have done a playthrough of the entire song very recently, so I've put the link below so you can go and check out how I interpret the song, how I play it, which is going to be pretty much what I'm going to take you through over the next few weeks with this lesson. So for now, let's move on to the song. Right, Blackened. This is the first song of the fourth record by Metallica, And Justice for All. Came out in 1988. Probably, in my mind, the most challenging song, along with Master of Puppets, Battery, and probably Dyer's Eve as well, especially with regards to speed and stamina. It's also my favorite track by Metallica. I feel this particular song has all the different elements that made the early Metallica records so seminal and such a great partner to my growing up as a teenager, and why I wanted to become a guitarist. So let's have a look today at the main riff, because I would say that's probably the bit that requires a lot of work. So one of the big challenge about this particular song, and this riff in particular, is the fact that we're in an odd time signature. So if you're not used to playing odd time signature, this will come across as slightly odd. The main riff is in 7/4. Now, before you all get a bit scared about, 7/4, how do I do a 7/4? A 7/4 is nothing more than a bar of 4/4 and a bar of 3/3. So effectively, a beat's chopped off from the second part of the riff. Another good example of a song in 7/4, the cliche that everybody says, is Money by Pink Floyd. If you listen very carefully, that is a riff in 7/4. Now, let's have a look at this riff, how it goes. I'll play it for you, and then we'll break it down. Right, okay, so the riff begins with an open E string palm muted. Remember, in thrash metal or any other forms of extreme metal, generally speaking, the open E that we use as a sort of rhythmic pulse is usually palm muted. So what we're doing in this part of the riff, we're going open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7th fret of A, back to the open E, and then we go to the 7th fret of A, 8th fret of A, back to the 7th fret of A. So let me show you that. And I would call this bit the bit in 4/4. If you count it, you will see it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right, then comes the second part of the riff, which is the bit in 3/4. And like I explained at the beginning of the video, a 3/4 or a 7/4 is usually a bar of 4/4 where one beat's been, a bar of 8/8 where a beat's been chopped off. So what we're going to do here is we're going to play the second part of the riff. So we're starting again with the palm muted open E, going into the 7th fret of A, back into the open E, and then we're going to go 7th fret of A, jumping to the 8th fret of D, back into the 7th fret of A. Let me show you that. Show you again. So here we're introducing effectively that little diminished sound. Right? So now let's do this. Let's put the part of 4/4 and 3/4 to make it into a riff in 7/4. Right, that is the first part of the riff. Then comes the second part of the riff, which is effectively the same thing to start with. So we're going again with the open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7/8/7. Right? And at that point, we play the tail of the riff. And I'm going to talk about the tail in a minute again, but let me show you how the tail goes. Right, now this tail has been probably one of the most argued pieces of music in the last 30 years, because if you listen to the record very closely, it's actually quite hard to hear what James Hetfield is playing. Several reasons. One, the frequency, even though the irony is we can't hear the bass, the album itself has got a very bassy sound, especially for the guitars, which basically muddles a little bit the notes of the guitar, especially when you're going down into the lower registers. So that's always been a bit of an issue. And the riff is played very, very fast, so it's very hard sometimes to hear exactly what he's doing. So one of the things that you can do is listen to live recordings. You can usually tell what a musician's doing in the studio by listening to their live recording. So let's have a look at that riff. We begin with a B flat power chord. So a B flat power chord, in this case, we're going to play it from the first fret of A and the third fret of D. And this particular part is one of the only bits in this riff that is not palm muted. So we're playing a pretty big open chord. Right, from here, we're going to play a series of notes. And it's going to be the second fret of E, third fret of E, into the second fret of A, and then the third fret of A, and I'm going to show you what happens there. Right. And then we finish off on the first fret of E. Let me explain what happens. We're going second fret of E, then third fret of E, then same thing on the A. Now when we reach the third fret of A, this is when one of the trickiest part of the riff kicks in, where up till now we've played everything as downstrokes. We've worked hard on the downstrokes, but this little bit is actually down up because we're introducing quick semiquavers or 2/16 notes. And then we'll land on the first fret of E, so which effectively is a little breakdown of an F power chord. So it goes. Right, so the whole first part of the riff goes like this. Right, then we're coming into the second repeat of the riff. And what happens in this bit, the initial first part of the riff in 4/4 stays the same. So once again, open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7th fret of A, open 7/8/7 on the A. Right, then comes a little variation. So if you remember earlier, we went onto the D string and we ended up here on the 8th fret of D. Well, this time around, which is effectively a B flat, we're going to do the same thing this time, but on the 6th fret of E. So we are once again playing a B flat, and we're creating, the diminished sound. So we're creating a diminished chord out of that riff. Right. So let's have a look at how I play that particular part. So after I've played the part in 4/4, I generally tend to switch my finger and put the second finger in there onto the 7th fret of A. Let me show you what I mean by that. So what I'm doing here, I'm going open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7th fret of A, 6th fret of E, back to the 7th fret of A. And at that moment is when I would have switched my finger to be able to access that 6th fret of E. Now sometimes, if my fingers are nicely warmed up and I'm feeling pretty limp and I've been practicing a bit, I might actually play the whole section using that second finger on the 7th fret of A. But I tend to find that you're leading the song better with the first finger initially and then 2 and 1 on the second half. So let me play you the second repeat of the riff. Right, and at this bit, we're going back to our section in 4/4. Open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7th fret of A, open E, 7/8/7. And then we finish off this riff with our tail, which is going again back to the B flat, which we talked about. So I'll play you both repeats very slowly, and I suggest that initially you start practicing very slowly with these particular repeats that I've played here. Let's go for it. Right, and that's pretty much it for this main riff of Metallica. Like I said, few challenges here, odd time signatures, but if you actually think about how odd time signatures work, it should make your life a little bit easier. The song is clocking in at 192 BPM, so it is pretty fast. So I suggest, if you're not very used to playing down-picked riff, then maybe sit for a few minutes to warm up your hand just by doing some open E power chords. Just to warm up your hand a little bit to get going, because this is pretty strenuous on the right hand particularly. It's a real good workout. I will do some videos about generally picking in the near future. But for now, practice this riff really slowly. If you have any questions, drop them into the comments. And next week, I'll come back, or maybe in the next few days if I get some time, with the verse and the chorus. For now, stay metal and look forward to seeing you again. Bye.